Hey, my name's Phil. I play in a band called the Datsuns. So the Datsuns have been together for about just over 16 years now, and we started out by playing gigs around the North Island and the South Island for the first couple of years under a different band name called Trinket. Hopefully you never find anything by that time, but maybe you will somehow. And then we started travelling around Australia and putting out our own 7-inches for the first few years, and then around October this time, October 10 years ago, we released our first album. So for the first 6 years we were basically touring and putting out our own singles on our own label, and then we released our album in October of that year, which would have been 2002, and now we're about to release our 5th album pretty much to the day, 10 years later. So yeah, I guess it was from touring around and spending about 6 years touring around New Zealand and playing to, you know, any upwards of 3 people to 100 people or whatever, supporting bands. We ended up getting a loan actually from a friend of ours and being invited to South by Southwest, and that kind of started a bit of, actually touring with the White Stripes started a little bit of a whirlwind for us. We got a little bit of recognition touring with them, and then got an invitation to South by Southwest, and from there we booked a 6-week tour and got a loan to cover ourselves for 6 weeks, and I came home 8 years later. And it started a whirlwind of being thrown onto magazine covers and playing shows and being playing every night, not just like 3 nights a week around New Zealand trying to play anywhere. We were playing every night for, you know, it'd be like 11 nights on, 1 night off, 10 nights on, 1 night off, and just press being overly interested in the band. And which at the time for us, it was around about between 2003 really to 2004. The interest of the press was so overwhelming that we couldn't help but be a little bit bemused by it. Like we even wrote a couple of songs on the first album because of all of the stuff that was going on, because it was they're so trendy. And it's hard to keep up with things, and we were well aware by what even Rolling Stone and the NME, you know, there's a new favourite band every day, you know, and this band's going to be the best band in the world. And when we kind of sensed that that stuff was coming along, we made sure that you know, we did make records that we liked essentially before anything else, and we made sure that we had our rights to how our records sounded and how our records looked as like a foundation of where we went. So we ended up licensing records to other major labels who pushed it in not the best way and not the ways that we would have really wanted, but we were kind of caught up in a bit of a whirlwind at the time, and we had to let a few things go, because normally we do our artwork, all our videos and stuff like that. We have normally creative control over everything, but when you're playing every single night in a different town and stuff like that, you have to let a few things go. So at that time it was so busy that we let a few things go, and I don't like to do one to think I'd rather do things a different way, but I think if that kind of thing came around again, I think that we'd take things a bit slower and just be a little bit more sure about what we're doing, not feel so pressured by press and people going, we need this now, and you know, it's kind of they're fulfilling their own agenda rather than kind of letting them live and kind of grow a little bit more organically. But then that's kind of died off, you know. Now, you know, nowadays it's just we get the press that we can, and we do the records when we can, and it's a little bit more peaceful in that regard. But I think there's got to be, you know, there could be a little bit more of a balance, because, you know, with the internet and stuff, bands like us that are doing it by themselves don't make as much money, or it's harder to kind of finance everything by yourself without that kind of push for advertising and putting posters around and stuff like that. So there's got to be some kind of middle ground, I think, going forward, where we can keep making records and keep sustaining ourselves. And so we've got, each of us has got other jobs and stuff to do, so we fund ourselves just like we did prior to the first record. And now it's kind of hobby-ish, you know, because we do 2 to 3 tours a year. We go and kind of make money to invest and back into the band, so we can record and just keep being a band, you know. Like, that's it really. When it comes down to it, we love playing in a band, and we're really good mates. And yeah, playing live is so much fun, so we just want to be able to keep going forward. Yeah. We started recording the record and rehearsing for it in Stockholm at a studio that Dolph and a guy who produced the record with us, Nick A. Anderson, had been building. And we practiced there for a couple of weeks, and then just we can work things out reasonably quickly. So we started recording it there, and we started demoing a lot of ideas, and which ended up being used in a lot of the main tracks. And we also, so that was like at the front end or the back end of touring. So we'd do some shows to get me and Ben over to Europe, and you know, help pay for the recording costs and the travelling costs. So we'd just extend the flight every a couple of weeks, so we would have time to be able to work on our ideas as well as you know, pay for the trip itself. And that worked in reverse. When Christian and Dolph would come over, we'd do it around say Christmas shows or summer tours, or if the other guys were coming back for any other reason, we'd add an extra 2 or 3 weeks onto the flight, so we could just spend a bit of time rehearsing, which didn't end up actually being that much time, because we would normally rehearse for about 2 days, and then there'd be enough stuff to do, and everyone would be sick of just practicing, so we'd want to just start laying down some ideas. And a lot of the songs at Roundhead in Auckland we worked out in the studio. Like, some of them, one of them we made up entirely in the studio, and I think that might be the way that we're going to do it going forward, is just go into a studio and work out ideas, because it kind of forces you to work it out really quickly, and any discussions or any arguments are had really quickly and sorted out at the time. And logistically for us, we don't have the luxury of spending too much time together, so I think working in a little bit of a box is going to work to our favour in the future. But yeah, a best part of 3 years, I'd say, we put it together over either going over to Europe, or those guys coming back over here and around shows. So it would have been 3 to 4 recording sessions. So going forward, we've got some shows in December coming up. We're going to Australia for a couple of weeks, touring over there, and then just before Christmas we're going to be playing a show in Wellington at Bodega, and a show in Auckland at Galatos on the Sunday before Christmas. So, and then obviously we'll probably do more extensive touring in Europe early next year, and going into the summer season over there. So, and then hopefully a more extensive New Zealand tour again, if not before, after that. You know, we'll do whatever we can to promote the record as best that we can. Okay, so that's it for me. So we're about to release this album, and we're about to do some shows, so listen to it. Come to the shows, Merry Christmas.